You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
Fittingly for Monty Python, Life of Brian began its life as a joke. Following the Holy Grail, when asked about what the next Python picture would be, Eric Idle said, "Jesus Christ, lust for glory." The final product, that is Life of Brian, would end up being more subtle. Well, barely. Given its setting and subject matter, Monty Python's Life of Brian is often accused of blasphemy, accusations which it hardly tries to avoid. The film largely tackles the themes of religious zealotry and the schismatic effects such fervor inevitably has. When a large group of frenzied followers with different backgrounds and biases all try to interpret the subtlest of revelations from their Messiah, it is only logical that they all come up with different interpretations. We can see this play out most clearly in the scene where Brian is trying to run away from his new, unintentionally created cult. As he runs, he ends up dropping a gourd and one of his shoes. One group picks up the gourd, while the other picks up the shoe, each claiming that their item is of paramount importance. Thus, the first great schism of the Church of Brian. Of course, Brian is not really the Messiah, he is a very naughty boy, and these items are worthless and without meaning. But the believers want so desperately to believe that they will forego all logic in favor of their faith. Monty Python is clearly poking fun at the stubbornness of zealotry, as not only do these zealots often follow beliefs that they themselves do not understand, but they will tear themselves apart over minor and inconsequential differences of doctrine. This not only refers to religious zealotry, but any type of zealotry really, including political. For example, there are the various anti-Roman activists or terrorist groups that all hate each other despite having the same goal, and they even all have similar names.
Are you the Judean People's Front?
Fuck off.
What?
Judean People's Front. Well, the People's Front of Judea.
And yet, when they come into contact with each other, all they do is fight with each other and not against the common enemy that they are supposedly supposed to be fighting against. Of course, there are many other topics satirized in the film as well, some of which would cause quite a stir today.
Why are you always on about women, Stan? I want to be one. What? We shall fight the oppressors for your right to have babies, brother. Sister, sorry. What's the point? It is symbolic of our struggle against oppression.
Symbolic of his struggle against reality.
Yeah, that seems pretty funny, but we'll leave it at that. I'm not opening that can of worms today. I'll just say that there are a lot of jokes made at the expense of what we would call woke or social justicey today, which either makes Life of Brian dated or ahead of its time, depending on your viewpoint. One point in the movie I do find a little odd, however, is this scene.
They bled us white bastards. They've taken everything we had. And what have they ever given us in return? The aqueduct? What? The aqueduct? Oh, yeah, they did give us that.
2 very boring minutes later.
All right, but apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a fresh water system and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Brought peace.
Oh, peace! Shut up!
So is it just me, or is this movie made by the British in the dying days of the British Empire endorsing imperialism? Certainly the idea of a benevolent conqueror making life better for the backwards people that it oppresses is a long-established propagandic trope of imperialism. Yet, if we want to interpret this charitably, I guess there is also a string of Stockholm Syndrome jokes laced throughout the film.
Proper little Janus pet, aren't we?
You saw him spit in my face?
I sometimes hang awake at night dreaming of being spat at in the face.
So perhaps this is what that scene is getting at? But I don't know. It all seems kind of on the nose to me.
Don't you call my husband Big Nose.
Well, he has got a big nose.
While the humor employed in Life of Brian is unquestionably Monty Python, Life of Brian does feel somewhat different from their previous work. For one, Terry Gilliam's iconic animations, which are so much a part of Python's soul, are only present in the opening credits of the film. Furthermore, Life of Brian presents a much more linear narrative than what is usual for a Python production. In Holy Grail, it feels like you could remove nearly half the sketches, and although the comedy would suffer because all of the sketches are hilarious, and less of a good thing is less good, the plot would still be left mostly intact depending on which scenes you removed. In Life of Brian, on the other hand, one sketch nearly always leads into the next, and personally, I think the film suffers for it. Sure, the sketches are still pretty funny, but by necessity they end up being less absurd than they could have been in order to keep the plot in check. And when things do get overly absurd, it almost feels out of place. Still, while the overall film might not be as funny as most other Monty Python productions, there are still plenty of individual sketches that are. As Eric Idle says at the end of the film, always look on the bright side of life. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Good night. Also, we get to see Graham Chapman's Monty Python. Just thought that was important to throw in there. Anyway, good night.